Joe Bruckner. I'm at the home of Mr. Bill Lassiter in Covington, Georgia. And Mr. Lassiter has kindly agreed to share his experiences from World War II and his life in general in connection with the Veterans History Project. And with us today is Charles Lassiter, Mr. Lassiter's nephew, and Tony Hilliard with the Atlanta History Center. And Mr. Lassiter, I want to thank you for taking the time to do this and to tell your story. We really appreciate you doing it. It's an honor for us to be able to sit down here with you. Could you give us your complete name and your current address?
My full name is James William Lassiter. I'm known as Bill because I prefer the name Bill over Jim. And I was born on May 28, 1920, about 6 miles south of Covington, Georgia. At that time, my parents lived in a 3-room house right on the highway. My father was a farmer. And we lived in that 3-room house until I was 3 years old when he built a house, or at least had a house built just behind where we were at the time. And that house is still standing. I have a picture of it here. It was in front of what goes with a farm. There was a lawn right back of it, and then there was a lot for a mule that ran right up almost to the house. At that time, the well was right on the road. The road was unpaved, and so my mother had to carry water from that well about 75 yards, I guess it would be, to the house in order to use it in the cooking and that sort of thing. The lot for the mule also came up right almost to the porch, and my mother just got after my daddy all the time to move it because of the attraction it had for flies and things like that. But at that time, my younger brother and I think I was about 5 years old, and my younger brother would be 4.
What was his name?
His name was Luke. His name was Luke Robinson Lassiter. He was named after Dr. Robinson, who was the family physician at the time he was born. And my daddy chewed tobacco. So we decided we were going to try that tobacco. So we got some of his tobacco one day and got behind that well box, and we both chewed it. We were the sickest 2 boys you ever saw, so we never tried tobacco again. But my mother also really just harangued my daddy to change the well, because, as I said, the well box was on right by the road, which meant carrying water for cooking and cleaning and things like that, probably 75 yards. So he finally had a well dug right at the back of the house and enclosed it so that it was under a porch. And this was much more handy. And also at that time, they had what was called a smokehouse, a place where he cured hams and made sausage and things like that. It was toward the front of the house too. And my mother finally got him to move it to the back of the house, right close to the back porch. So during that time, my daddy was a 1-horse farmer. He grew cotton and corn, and those were the main crops. He'd have maybe 2 or 3 acres of wheat, but on occasion he'd grow oats. But the main crops were cotton and corn, and he would rotate them. If he'd have 6 or 8 acres of cotton in this field, and 6 or 8 acres of corn in another field, then next year he'd exchange them and back like that. And then as he began to use more cows for milk, I think I remember that I was taught to milk when I was 7 years old. And then when I was 10 years old, he built a dairy barn that would house, as I recall, maybe 10 cows. I don't remember. But at any rate, it met specifications for furnishing milk for the dairy. So at that time, he'd have maybe 7, 8, 9 cows. And in doing that, he did something that I still am amazed at, because the pasture that he had was from right down below that for 5 or 6 acres, maybe something. And in order to have enough pasture for that many cows, he built a lane. He took barbed wire and built a lane about, not quite as wide as this porch, as this room, and he took it for almost a mile back of the house, back at the back of the farm. He and his brother had this farm together, and I think the farm was 280 something acres. So he took it right back to the back of the farm, and then every day we would move these cows through a lane to this back pasture, which had plenty of grass to grow and stuff like that. And then in the afternoon late, my job was to go get the cows and bring them back.
So you worked pretty hard as a 10-year-old, didn't you?
Oh gosh, I tell you, we always had one cow that was the leader. She'd have a bell on her, so every time she grazed, the bell would ring, and I could find them okay. So long about 30 minutes before sundown, while we were working in the field, it was my job to go get the cows. And at that time, I was not like I am now. I'd go on a trot, run the whole way, never think anything about it, and go where the bell was and get the cows and then drive them back through the lane. And then my younger brother, Luke, and I would milk the cows, and my daddy would strain the milk and get it ready into cans for shipment. He shipped the milk to Atlanta. There was a man who had a truck that came by, and he'd pick up the milk and take it to Atlanta. And we'd usually have 1 or 2 cans of milk to go each day. As I recall, at that time, he got 90 cents 100 pounds for the milk. And my brother and I did most of the milking when we weren't fighting. We'd get in arguments sometime, and of course, it was always his fault.
Of course.
By the time I reacted to it, I was the one who was caught.
Well, when did you get your first exposure to the military?
I got my first exposure to the military when I started at the University of Georgia. And I realized that I'd be able to pay some more of my expenses by what the military paid. If I went into the ROTC, they would furnish uniform, and they paid a stipend. It wasn't a lot, I don't remember, $20 a quarter. It might have been $20 a month. But at any rate, it helped a great deal to meet the requirements for what was needed.
Now, what year did you go into University of Georgia? When did you start school at UGA?
I started in September of 1937.
Okay.
At that time, President Roosevelt had already started what was called NYA, National Youth Administration. And the NYA was where students who were in school could work part-time and get paid. And so I was able to do that. I started off working in the agronomy plants, picking peas or doing this or that, shelling or whatever. And I got paid 10 cents an hour. And I could work 10 hours a week, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. So that gave me that much money. And I think I mentioned that I also got a tuition scholarship, and that helped a great deal. So during the first quarter that I was there, my first class was in the poultry department. And the poultry department then was right where the Georgia Center is now. I met some of classmates that I knew. Matter of fact, the first class I had, I guess some of the ones were my best friends all the way through college. But then I don't remember what all I took.
Well, did you sign up for ROTC the first quarter you were at Georgia?
I signed up first quarter. I was in ROTC the whole time.
Talk about how you ended up in the cavalry.
Well, I ended up in the cavalry because I was in the infantry, and this best friend of mine, I say best friend, he was in the same class, but he was a couple of years older than I. He had started college later, and he was in the cavalry, and he suggested that I transfer to the cavalry, and this was in my second year when I was in the infantry, and I did, and I enjoyed it. The cavalry at the university, I don't know how much you know about the campus, but the horses were kept over beyond where Georgia Center is now. The stables were there, and then they had several non-commissioned officers, regular Army, who would bring the horses to the campus for drill. And then we drilled with them on where if you know the campus, if you come right down, I wish I could remember. What's the street that goes right into the campus?
Lumpkin.
Huh?
Lumpkin.
No,
Village?
Lumpkin runs right by the campus. And right down at the foot of the hill
Broad Street.
of what street?
Broad, maybe. Broad or Village or Lumpkin or.
No. It's the one that goes right straight into the campus. At any rate, right there is where the drill field was. So they'd bring the horses there, and then we would do our riding on the horses at that time. I don't remember too much about that, except I remember one time they had a jumping competition, and I won it. I didn't really win it. The horse I was on that won it. I had you could pick what horse you got just by choice, by chance. And I picked this horse, and it was the best horse they had. So when you went around and you jumping all these things, you had to jump. I didn't have any trouble fueling that horse. So I got a cup for that jumping, but I really didn't earn it. The horse earned it.
When did you go into the military? Active duty?
From the university
When? Oh,
on July the 1st, 1941.
okay.
I think I graduated from university on May the 31st, and all of us who were in the ROTC received orders as of July the 1st to report here, there, yonder.
How did your family feel about you going into the military at the time?
That's one time.
Take a deep breath.
Oh,
Take a deep breath.
oh,
There you go.
I saw my daddy shed tears.
Really? Yeah.
He was afraid he wasn't going to see me.
Yeah. Well, that was a common emotion at that time, I know.
It was. But I reported at Fort McPherson in Atlanta, and I rode a bus back to Fort Riley, Kansas. When I got out there were about several of us who were in ROTC in Georgia who were ordered to Fort Riley, Kansas. One of them, his mother had given him a Buick convertible for his graduation. So we were able to use his transportation all around.
Wow.
So that was the time I saw them. We rode all in around Fort Riley. We were stationed out at Camp Funston. Camp Funston is just outside Fort Riley. And at that time I saw he could buy gas for 19 cents a gallon. So we did a lot of riding in his car. I've got some here, thank you.
Now, is Fort Riley, what were you going to be training for at Fort Riley?
My first position at Fort Riley was in a troop called A Troop. The commanding officer of the troop was the first lieutenant, but he's a West Point graduate, so he knew his business. All the enlisted personnel were black because the regiment was one of the regiments that have been referred to as Buffalo Soldiers back in the Indian days when they were working. My first appointment was as a platoon leader of a platoon leader of an 81 millimeter mortar platoon. I didn't stay in that platoon but just 2-3 weeks, and then I put in charge of a 51 caliber machine gun platoon. This was an interesting time for me because those black soldiers, in the first place, the sergeants. First sergeant he was full-time, and my platoon sergeant was a full sergeant. They were career soldiers. I don't know how long they'd been now, but Sergeant Taylor had probably been there 12, 15 years. Sergeant Bryant, who was my platoon sergeant, he'd probably been there 10, 12 years. They knew their stuff. So after I was changed from the 81 millimeter mortar platoon to be platoon leader of the 51 caliber machine gun platoon, we'd go out on what they call these marches, and I was impressed. Those black soldiers, if you given the order to fire, they could have the machine guns were carried on a pack animal, and of course the soldiers were riding a horse. If the order was given to fire, they could have that machine gun off the pack horse on the ground and fire him within 60 seconds. Wow. They were good, and they were real proud of what they did too.
What was their relationship with the white soldiers?
Well, when I first went out there, this was before World War II started, they were spit and span. That was, for example, I saw the squadron commander play polo, stuff like that. I had an orderly named Private Sane. He was a jolly boy. I don't believe he's over 18 years old, but he'd come up to the BOQ and he'd make my bunk, shine my boots,
Wow.
saddle my horse and things like that. But that kind of ended by the time the war started.
Yeah.
Were there any white soldiers that were in this organization, or were you the only white soldier supervising black?
All of the officers were white. None of the blacks were officers, except I think the dentist was black, and he was an officer, and the chaplain, I believe, was black. Mm-hmm. But the interesting thing was, the commanding general was black. He was the only black general that occurred in the Army at that time. Yeah. And he retired in just a year or two. He had been, I think he already had in 20-something years when I was out there. One of the things that I remember about Fort Riley, we'd go on these daily marches, and we'd walk out, we were riding, and we'd go out so far and come back. And we always rode by this place that had a great big bush on it. I mean, it was bigger than this ceiling. And they told us it was marijuana, which was my first time I'd ever heard of marijuana. So I don't know whether anybody ever got any of that or not. I don't know. But I'm trying to think now some of the things that took place. I remember one thing that happened. We were going on a march one morning, and the horse I was on was scared by a scout car. Scout car came by, and I was on the horse, and it ran across the ditch, through a fence, and towards, barbed wire towards legs. So they had to take me off that horse. The only horse they had left was one that had been a race horse. And they saddled that horse and put me on it. And the regiment was stretched out by that time in the march. And I got on the horse, and I was supposed to walk and trot. I was supposed to trot at canter. I was supposed to canter at gallop. Till finally I couldn't pull it down. It just stayed on a gallop. And we were doing the best to pull him down. He rode past the whole regiment. And finally somebody rode up beside me and pulled him down. I was able to get off. My legs were shaking.
I bet. Well, during that time, was there a general feeling that we were going to war?
I didn't have that feeling. I didn't know it. My daddy did. I think that was why he had the feeling that he had. But I didn't know it. I know. See, I was just at Fort Riley from about a month, 6 weeks before we went on maneuvers.
Now, when you were at Fort Riley and when you were on maneuvers, when you were training with the horses, did they instruct you so that you thought if we went to war, we're going to be riding horses?
No.
No.
Nothing was brought up about that. Okay. I remember we headed for Louisiana in July, late July or early August, on train. And we detrained at Texarkana, and my first memory of that was they sat me down and I found out what a shave tail was. They shaved my head. I was being initiated. And so, but we then, I don't remember what all we did, but I know we were supposed to protect the flank. See, there were two armies there. I believe it was the 2nd Army and the 3rd Army. And one was commanded, I believe, by Colonel Patton. Oh. And the other one by some other colonel.
Yeah, 3rd Army was Patton. Was the 3rd Army Patton?
3rd Army, I believe, was Patton. And the cavalry was supposed to protect the flank of the, as I remember, the 3rd Army. So that when the main army was moving here, we had to move like this. Okay. So I remember we rode one time for 3 days and nights without taking off our boots. And we rested 10 minutes for every hour. And then between that and the time we ate was what we did. I remember we rode night and day. During the night, I remember we'd cross some wooden bridges, and the word would pass back, holding the bridge, holding the bridge. Wow. And I don't know whether it was or not, but the idea was to give your horse his rein, and the horse would miss the hold. Yeah. But I remember that. I remember also being so tired that I'd have the sergeant come up and, "Lieutenant, wake up, wake up." And I'd go to sleep in that 10 minutes time. But during the maneuvers too, sometimes we'd have to pull off the road into a ditch to let the cannons come by. They had 37 millimeter artillery, and they were horse-drawn. And we'd be close enough to where we could see the flashes of light from the artillery, and we could hear the sounds of the artillery. But that was about all we knew. We as part of the cavalry, we didn't know what was going on. Yeah. We just did what we were told. Did your job. And I found out later on that we had some distinguished company down there, and that General Patton, Major General at that time, and I believe General Lassiter was promoted from colonel to brigadier general during those maneuvers. Really? But I remember one time I saw Scott car, I guess it was, come by. They had a flag on it with a star. So I don't know who it was, but it was a general while we were on maneuvers. I remember one thing about the maneuvers too. Shortly after we were down there, of course this was Louisiana, and it was hot. Yeah. And particularly was it hot when you were riding horses. Somebody found out they could get beer nearby. And they brought a bottle of beer, and that was the first time I'd ever had beer. And it made me like beer.
Tasted pretty good down there.
Really
didn't it?
good. But,
Before we move on, let me ask you to identify these two pictures that are interesting. I believe they're from Fort Riley, and we'll hold them up to the camera. Tell us what it is, and then we'll put it up to the camera.
well, the one standing here is C.L. Copeland, Colin D. Copeland, who was one of the ones from Georgia, who was ordered out to Fort Riley. And he was watching the enlisted person shoe the horse.
Oh, okay.
I know after I was transferred from the cavalry to the Air Corps, I had a letter from Cope one day, and he said, get it while it's hot. He was talking about whenever the horse passed some manure, you had to get it
Get
right
it.
there.
And here's one more from Fort Riley.
This was doing a horse show, and these are some of the young officers. I don't think I'm on that picture. I think I probably took the picture.
Interesting just for the
They were
uniforms.
watching
And
the horse show.
okay, where did you go after Louisiana?
I got orders while we were on, well, going back a little bit. It was known when I was at Fort Riley that you're gonna do away with horses. Horses couldn't stand up against tanks and
Okay.
machine guns, so you could apply for some other branch of service. So I applied for Air Corps, and while we were on maneuvers, I received orders transferring me from Fort Riley to Mobile, Alabama at Brooklyn Field. And so when we got back from maneuvers, I was ordered to go to, didn't say without delay, with you, to go, whatever time. At any rate, I took a bus to Mobile, Alabama. And when I got back to Fort Riley, it was October. And they'd gone into winter uniforms. And winter uniforms are a lot hotter than summer uniforms. So when I went to Mobile, I was wearing my winter uniform with my boots and spurs, and my foot locker had to come behind me. So I was down at Mobile for 3 days wearing that uniform and those boots in that Mobile weather before my foot locker got there. But it did come, and I was initiated, I guess you'd say, into what was needed at that time. They were just being mobilized. And I had the opportunity, for example, to one time greet General Hap Arnold. And General Hap Arnold was commanding general of the Army Air Corps. He was an imposing man, I thought, and it was interesting to me to be able to do it. One or two other things I remember about that, being mobilized. I'd do such things as I'd have my appointment as being adjutant of the squadron. I was company at that time, not squadron anymore. Yeah, it was squadron. That's right, I've forgotten a lot of stuff. But
It seems like you remember a lot of stuff.
well, I remember one thing. I had orders appointing me something. I forgot what it was, and I signed it as commanding officer. Now I was second lieutenant, appointing me to do something else, and I signed it. But so I had several positions there. One of the positions I had was as mess officer. Of course, you didn't have to do anything as mess officer because mess sergeant took care of everything. Except one day I was called up to executive's office, and I got up chewing out. It seems that some of the enlisted personnel who worked in the mess hall stayed in a tent right next to the mess hall. And the executive officer's gone there, and it was in disarray, to say the least. So he didn't say anything to him. He called me in, and I got dressed up because I hadn't even been checking it. but I checked it after that.
Yeah, bet you did.
But one other thing I remember from Mobile, I was officer of the day one day, and we had been downtown Mobile, and on the way back, we saw this airman staggering along the street. He was drunk. So, of course, I had a sergeant with me. So we stopped and we were going to take him in, because he knew. I don't know what happened. All I know is he took a swing at me, and he didn't really hit me so much as he knocked my cap off. So we did have to take him in then. Yeah. And I court-martialed him. I almost had to court-martial him. So I never knew what happened to him. But I do know he came up for a court-martial. And one of the other things I remember, while we were at Mobile, there was a night spot just outside the base. And we were there one night, and there was a captain came in. His name was Captain Fitch. You remember Fitch Shampoo? Well, he was the son of the Fitch Shampoo. And he wasn't on leave. He wasn't supposed to be out there. So I thought, if I got caught out there, I'd be put in jail. And I think he would have too, but apparently he wasn't. He apparently got by without it. And that was about what I remember about it. What I do remember was when Pearl Harbor took place. It was on a Sunday, and I was down the bay came right up to the Brooklyn Field, it was called. And I was down on a little thing that just looked at the fish swimming down there. And I got up to go back to the BOQ. And as I walked in the BOQ, one of my fellow friends said, "Bill, come here. And they had it on the radio about Japan, bombing Pearl Harbor. That's the first I'd heard about it. So we got to talking about it. We said, well, they'll get that come up. They won't last 6 weeks against the United States. That's how much we knew. But I stayed at...
Well, from that point forward, while you were down there, how did everybody's attitude change, and what happened with? Did you notice any changes in the civilian population and over that next month?
I didn't have much contact with the civilian population. I was dating a girl down there at the time. I don't remember her name now, but.
Well, did you mobilize then? I mean, did you have to do something different because of?
Yeah, I remember one thing we did. We were going to be ordered away from the bank. We were 25th Air Depot Group, what it was called, and we were being shipped out. We were to not mention to anybody that we were shipping out. Nobody was to know it. So the girl I was dating at the time, I couldn't mention it or anything like that. So they had me to go down to pack some of the equipment. I didn't know anything about packing equipment, and I told them so. So one of the other officers went down to pack the equipment to be shipped. But when we were shipped, I remember we left and nothing was said about it. We were gone. I remember we took a train to New Orleans. And in New Orleans, then we got on what had been a cruise ship. It was I believe they said it was a 25,000 ton ship. I was still a second lieutenant. I remember I was put into some quarters there on the ship with a dentist, and he was a captain. How I happened to get it, I don't know, but it was nice quarters. Yeah. And we stayed on that ship then for about a week. The only thing I remember was we would see depth charges. We were being escorted with some destroyers, and we'd see depth charges being thrown by those destroyers. Whether they knew there was a U-boat under there, or whether they were just fraction, I don't know. But anyway, we pulled into Kingston, Jamaica, and we were allowed to get off ship, go into Kingston. And we went into and had dinner at the Kingston Hotel. There was a major with us named Major First. And one thing happened. He went back to the ship and got a gun. And we were ordered back to the ship. It seems that one of the airmen had gone to a place there to have a drink. And one of the natives got on the seat beside him, and he got up and knocked the native down. And one of the niggas don't sit by him. Oh, what he hadn't thought about was that 98% of those people down there were black.
Yeah.
So this was why Major First had us leave the hotel, go back to the boat, because he didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
After this airman hit this native.
Did anything happen?
No, that's all I ever knew. Yeah. But we were on the ship then, and again we didn't know where we were going, but we landed in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And this is where we were going. And I was impressed with then the Air Depot group, the 25th Air Depot group, was housed excuse me, in what had been Ford Motor Company. It was nice buildings. And I wasn't there very long. I remember being there, and then the commanding officer of the 25th Air Depot group was a 27-year-old West Pointer. And he was one of these spit and span things. So first thing I knew, I was called to his office. I think he had decided that somebody who had been in the cavalry wasn't somebody he wanted to be in the supply outfit. So I had orders cut for me, transfer me from 25th Air Depot to the 358th, I've forgotten the number. At any rate, it was a supply group at Losifio on the other side of the island. It was one of the best things that could ever happen to me. Because after I was transferred there, they didn't worry about I had been in the cavalry. First off, I was made assistant provost marshal. The provost marshal was a captain. And one of the duties of the captain was to check the houses of prostitution and the houses. And so I was able to go with him. It was quite interesting to come up to some of those houses and watch some of them airmen go out the window and go. It happened. But at any rate, I wasn't there very long at that. We had a man who was locked up for some reason, and I don't remember why, but he died while I was assistant provost marshal. I never did know what happened. But at any rate, I got orders making me assistant Air Force Station supply officer. The supply officer was a first lieutenant, and he was a good man. He was very capable, and he was likable. And he had a good friend who was the engineering officer named Plant, Bill Plant. And Bill Plant and Bill Salance had a lot to influence me. While I was there, I learned a great deal about supply officer. And one of the things that he had me do, we had some mix-up with airplane engines with Trinidad. And so Lieutenant Salance had me go to Trinidad to straighten it out. By that time, I think I had been promoted to first lieutenant. He also was good at that. So I remember flying from Losifio. We landed on one of the islands, British islands, and then flew from that to Barbados. The only people in that plane were the pilot and the co-pilot and me. And the B-18 was different from the B-17. It had a thing right in the front where somebody sat there. At any rate, I sat there all the way down. And after landing on one of the British Isles, then we landed on Barbados. I don't know whether the pilot and co-pilot were having fun with me or what. But at any rate, when they took off the plane to leave for Trinidad, you ran a runway, and boom, like that, it was about a 200-foot drop down to the ocean, and we dropped about half that way before they straightened out. So after I got my heart back, I think they flew over to Trinidad, and so we landed in Trinidad, and I did whatever I had to do to straighten it out. But
Uncle Bill, would you comment on why the United States military was putting outposts in these Caribbean islands?
Well, of course, this was back when President Roosevelt did what was called the Lend-Lease deal. He traded a lot of destroyers. I think he traded something like either 100 or 200 destroyers for these bases there, like in Trinidad and Jamaica and I don't know, half a dozen places down there that were bases that we wouldn't have had otherwise. I remember when I was first stationed at Losi Field, there were holes drilled all over that place that were supposed to be foxholes. So if we were attacked, then you could jump into those sub holes and maybe not be shot or something. The whole trouble was those foxholes, every time you had rain, they got water in them. And not only that, this encouraged one of these things that stick to...
Leeches?
Huh?
A leech?
Not leeches,
Tarantulas?
huh?
Tarantula?
Not tarantulas, they were... Oh, shoot.
Scorpion.
Huh?
A scorpion.
Scorpions.
Yeah.
There might be a dozen scorpions in each one of them. So you didn't want to dive in one of those if you could help it.
Well, were there combat units stationed on those islands, like Puerto Rico?
Well, at Losi Field, they had a squadron of fighter. They weren't called fighter; they were called pursuit squadron at that time, and an observation squadron. The observation squadron was one that flew slow planes that could be observant, of course. And the fighter squadron was the fast ones. When we first got there, they had P-39s, they called them. And then they went from that to P-47s, I believe it was. But at any rate, they kept changing about every 2 or 3 months. They'd get new planes. I remember one of the fighter pilots was a friend of mine. I'd known him in Georgia. And when he was first training for the fighter pilot, they were in 2-seaters. And they told him about this, I don't know whether it's true or not, that the one flying the plane all of a sudden did like this, and Spider, they call him Spider Lane. He had to grab hold of something to keep him being thrown out of the plane. So he carried that all the way through. He was still known as Spider Lane when I got out of the military.
Did you have many sightings of submarines around there while you were there?
Didn't at all. I remember we would do such things as act like we were defending the base. And we didn't have guns. We didn't even have rifles. We had broomsticks. And I remember one of the things, I had a cigarette lighter I really liked. That time I was smoking a couple packs of cigarettes a day. And we were doing this thing of going up to the fence to protect the base. And what happened, I lost that cigarette lighter somewhere, and I never did find it. But while we were there, I learned how to play poker too. But I didn't learn well enough. But I remember
Well,
one time-
we apparently wanted the Germans to believe all of those islands were heavily defended. Is that the idea?
Well, we used broomsticks when we were acting like we were going to protect it.
Gotcha.
Of course, it did have a fence around it. I'm trying to remember some of the things. We lived in nice quarters. These had been built before they were going to war. And I lived in one with Lieutenant Fields, Bill Fields. He was from New York, and he had one room and I had the other. And it had a kitchen and a living room. And while we were there, one time he had a letter from home, and he was called back to New York for some emergency. And he came back. Turned out that his wife had left him and had taken his car and took the things, and he didn't know where she was or anything.
Gee.
So then he had to come back without knowing what that was. But he and I roomed together the whole time. While we were there, we had, it was a nice time.
How long were you there in Puerto Rico?
Beg pardon?
How long were you stationed in Puerto Rico?
I got there in June of 42, and I stayed there until April of 43.
And where did you go after
And I
that?
was transferred from there to Jamaica. I was assistant Air Force Station Supply Officer in Puerto Rico. But when I was transferred to Jamaica, then I was the supply officer. I was transferred as Air Force Station Supply Officer there. I enjoyed my tour of Jamaica too. The colonel there was really a nice person, full colonel. I don't know whether he felt sorry for me or what. I know one time he took a week's leave to one of the, I wouldn't call it was kind of like a hotel on the North Shore of Puerto Rico, of Jamaica. And he let me go with him. He, while we were there, I didn't have anything to do except just relax. And the major down at the base would fly over daily and drop his mail from the airplane. One of the things while we were there, the hotel had a stream running right under the bar. And I was there at the bar, and at that time I had learned to drink. And the colonel was drinking with this man, and it turned out that this man was the assistant what is Bill Clinton's wife, Secretary of State.
Secretary of State. Yeah.
He was Assistant Secretary of State.
Huh.
And they were discussing, because I didn't know anything about that, but I really enjoyed that week, and how I deserved it, I've never known.
Now, how was the situation on Jamaica different than the situation on Puerto Rico as far as the military we had there and what our function was there?
The only thing we had there that I know about was the Air Corps. There was an air base there. It had runways, and that was the place that I remembered that I greeted. I was on the group to greet Ms. Roosevelt.
Now, tell us about
when
that.
she visited Vernon Field. We had one airplane from Holland that had trouble there, and we were able to supply the parts and repair the plane. And I remember getting a letter from the president of KLM appreciating what we had done for them. But the thing that I remember most about that was not only was Air Force Station Supply Officer, I was petroleum officer for the island. This was for the Air Corps at that time, and the Navy also. We had a shipment of 100-octane gasoline come in, and there wasn't any place to put it. Well, we had a civilian who handled all the stuff for the airplanes, gassing them up and handling that and stuff. And Mr. Robertson was a Scotsman. And I had to ask Mr. Scotsman what to do. There was just no place to put it. He said the only thing you can do is put it in the above ground tank. So they put it in the above ground tank. They checked it the next day and it had evaporated $25,000 worth of 100-octane gasoline. Wow. I could just see myself spending the rest of my life taking myself and paying over that. But I wasn't. They had some sort of group that started it, but I wasn't charged with it. So, but it sure scared me.
When Miss Roosevelt was down there, what was her role? Just
she was just visiting some of the military.
Okay.
She was. But if you knew her, if you ever saw her, she was kind of plain looking, but she was a gracious person.
Did you ever run out of petroleum?
We ran low enough one time to where I was supposed to go to Cuba to see the Navy about getting some extra gasoline.
Huh.
So I was flying to Cuba from Burnham Field, and one of the engines on the two-engine plane started sputtering. So I started putting on my, parachute. And I had somebody hit me on the shoulder and said, "Captain, help me with the parachute." It was one of the civilians on the plane. He didn't know how to put on the parachute. But at any rate, it quit sputtering, and we did land at Guantanamo Bay. So when we landed there, I was calling to see about the gasoline. I said, "This is Captain Lassiter from Jamaica." I was talking to the lieutenant commander. He was, "Yes, sir, no, sir, yes, sir, no, sir." He didn't realize I was an Army captain, not a Navy captain.
Yeah, that makes a difference.
But at any rate, we were able to arrange the gasoline. And while we were there, this was before Castro.
Yeah.
I remember riding up to a little town up there, I don't remember where it was, out from Guantanamo Bay and having lunch up there.
What was that like? What was Cuba like then, from what you saw at least?
It was about like Jamaica. At that time, I didn't see anything like you see now, like you would after Castro. Yeah. But that was an experience that I had that I remember. Then.
So you're still in Jamaica, and it's what, 1943, 44 now?
I was in Puerto Rico from 1942 to 43. I was in Jamaica from 1943 to 44.
Okay.
When I was ordered back to the States.
So you came back to the States in 44?
Came back to the States on a ship.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, I saw a lot of the same people that I had known in Puerto Rico on that same ship. Oh. So I guess they must have been ordered back too.
Yeah. Now what was your assignment in the States?
My assignment in the States, I came back to Fresno, California. And I didn't know what we were doing, but we were there and we were being reorganized, I guess you would say. But while we were there, I had the opportunity to go to Supply Corps school. I didn't need to go to Supply Corps school. I'd been supply officer for a year or longer. But that Supply Corps school was in Macon, Georgia. And I got the orders, and so I did go to Macon, Georgia, to that Supply Corps school. I think it was 6 weeks, I don't remember how long it was now. But anyway, it gave me an opportunity to visit my family at home. At that time I had been dating two girls. Both of them, I'd been writing two girls. I had both of them visit me down at Macon at different times.
Oh, that must have been touchy.
But I found out later on, I really wasn't being very nice, because I don't think either girl knew about the other one. But
here's a picture we'd like you to describe. I believe this is when you were home on leave. Tell us who's in that picture.
Who was it?
Is that the picture that?
Yeah,
when
was
you
that
were
when
on-
you were home on leave, when you were in supply school at Macon?
I don't remember. Yeah, I was on leave.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who was that there with you?
Probably was when I was on,
And who is that in the picture with you?
that's E.G., that's my older brother.
Okay. Yeah.
He also was a captain.
Okay.
Uh,
So you came on leave and then went back to Fresno?
No. While I was gone, my unit had been transferred, and they first went to Oklahoma City. So when I left for leave, I went back to Oklahoma City, and they had left Oklahoma City. They were heading for Smoky Hill Army Air Base in Kansas by train. Well, the bad part about that was my briefcase holding all of my personnel records I had left at Fresno, California. So when they moved, they apparently didn't move my briefcase because they never did find it. These orders that you see here, they had to be replaced because I had lost my briefcase that contained all my orders while I was on leave. But I went to Oklahoma City, and they were already in Smoky Hill Army Air Base. And don't remember. I guess I caught a train from there to Smoky Hill Army Air Base. I remember seeing a brigadier general while I was in Oklahoma City, and he was wearing the uniform of one of these that jump,
Parachute?
parachutes,
Airborne,
I guess, whatever it was. At any rate, it was impressive to me, but I didn't stay there but just a little bit. I went on Smoky Hill Army Air Base. Smoky Hill Army Air Base is my first time that I was able to see a B-29
Oh.
because they had B-29 on the base to find out about it. And I didn't do anything there. I was squadron commander, and it snowed a lot, I remember. I remember putting a beer outside my window and coming back and it was frozen. But I dated a girl there a good bit, and all the time I guess we were just being held there until we gonna be transferred to the Pacific.
Well, now, did you have a pretty good idea that if the war continued, you'd be going to the Pacific?
I had no idea what they were gonna do.
Well, Japan had not yet bombed Pearl Harbor.
Oh no, no.
Well, they had
This
bombed
is,
Pearl Harbor.
beg pardon?
They had bombed Pearl Harbor, haven't they?
Oh, Pearl Harbor, yeah.
Yeah, they had
I
bombed.
think you was talking about the atomic
Okay,
bomb.
sorry.
Yeah. They had bombed Pearl Harbor
Yeah.
while I was in
Right.
Brooklyn Field.
But they haven't dropped the A-bomb yet.
They had not dropped the A-bomb.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see what I'm trying to think.
So you were reassigned to, in effect, get prepared to go overseas.
Yeah, I didn't know it, but they knew it. I know why we were stationed at Smoky Hill Army Air Base. Colonel Fulton was the commanding officer. And I wanted to be transferred. I didn't want to go to the Pacific. I thought they were going to the Pacific. He wouldn't transfer me. So I stayed there, and my outfit was ordered to the Pacific. And while it was ordered there, I'm trying to shake my memory now as far as if I was ordered to Seattle, Washington, to foresee the getting together of the supplies to go to Guam. I didn't know we were going to Guam, didn't know where we were going. But I spent several weeks in Seattle, Washington, and Tacoma, Washington. I stayed in a hotel. They were paying my expenses, and while we were there was when President Roosevelt died.
Oh.
I remember walking down the street and hearing about his death. It really hit me hard,
Yeah.
because he was really, I guess you'd say, the only president I ever knew.
Yeah.
But then when I was ordered to the Pacific, I had orders to report to Seattle, Washington on a Saturday. The only trouble about it was I got the orders to report on Monday. So I missed the boat. I reported to the port at Seattle, Washington on Monday. My ship had left on Saturday. So I had to go on another ship. The ship that I went on was a freighter, one of these Liberty ships. It had just 2 or 3 officers on it, the mess officer and me, and the equipment. But it was the equipment. And so it took us 30 days to go from Seattle, Washington to Guam. We stopped one place on the way, and that was in the Wetok. I didn't know what it was at that time, but it was just a little island there, but didn't look like any wider than here, that house over yonder, and maybe as long as from here downtown. But at any rate, we just stopped there overnight, and then we sailed on and stopped at Saipan. Saipan was the first place and the only place I've ever seen women on the barbed wire fence, under a wire fence with barbed wire around it. Because all of the nurses and the women officers were inside this fence to protect them from the sailors. And I saw where Saipan was really torn up. When we landed there, the man on the ship that I was on, I mean, they had good food. They believe in eating right. He and I took a Jeep and we rode around Saipan trading steaks for beer. And we did. But that's when I saw they really tore that island up. Of course, this was, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks, 8 weeks, something like that after Saipan had been invaded. And so when I got to Guam was when I saw how badly it was torn up too. I think the only thing standing at that town where we lived was the church, you'd call it.
Sure.
It was Catholic, but whatever you call it. And when we landed, then we were able to drive on paved roads over to the base. We were at Northwest Field, and I don't think they'd had Guam over 6 or 8 weeks. And they already had paved roads. They already had gasoline over there for the B-29s. They had the B-29s taken off on the runway. The runway wasn't paved, but it had these wire things you put down. Yeah. And they had BOQ that I was able to stay in.
So they were going on bombing runs from there.
Yeah. And shortly after I got there, I'd see some of the B-29s come in. I saw some of those things look like they'd have a hole in the wind that big,
Really?
and they'd be flying.
Gee.
But I remember 2 things about that. Was I was taking a shower there next to the VOQ, and I took off my University of Georgia ring, and that's the last I ever saw it.
Oh no.
I never did replace it. Another thing that happened there, I guess, was there were several Japanese who were holed up in the overbrush there. They didn't have food. So several times one of them would try to get food from the commissary that we had there on base, because the commissary is right next to it. As a matter of fact, the quartermaster was a good friend of mine. We had been stationed together while we were at Smoky Hill on the air base. He was the quartermaster and I was the supply officer. And we had one time there that I woke up and there was a Japanese lying on the ground, had been burned. He had been caught out there, and he tried to climb a tree, get away from it. They shot him down, poured gasoline on him, and burned him. So
Was he dead?
they went,
Was he dead?
oh yeah, he was dead when they shot him out of the tree.
Oh.
But one time I was there in a Jeep, and this friend of mine grabbed my cap and ran with it. And I jumped out of the Jeep and ran after it. And somebody caught that Jeep, because otherwise it was going down the hill. I'd probably had to pay for a Jeep if somebody hadn't caught it. But, you know,
Well, were you in Guam when the bomb was dropped?
yes.
Or the two bombs?
I was. I remember going down to headquarters squadron that day, and the first sergeant's name was Sergeant Smallwood. And Sergeant Smallwood said, "Captain, listen to this." I listened to it, and they were saying then that the bomb was how many times as powerful as TNT, 20,000 times. I said, no way. Ain't no way something like that could be true, Sergeant Smallwood. At any rate, the executive officer of the group, they didn't call regiments, they called groups. Executive officer was Bill McConnell. And Bill McConnell and I had been at Puerto Rico at the same time, both second lieutenants. He had become executive officer of the group. And he came in and we were talking about it. I said, well, let's go see about it. General May's headquarters was about, it wasn't any further from our place than from here to the railroad over here. So we jumped in a Jeep and drove up to General May's headquarters, and that was when we found out that there really was an atomic bomb. It really had been dropped by the United States.
What was the reaction of the troops when you heard that?
I guess you could say they were firing rifles up there.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah.
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
I really was kind of concerned because you could hear shot after shot after shot after shot, and they were just celebrating. I don't think anybody ever got shot.
Now, when you heard that Japan had surrendered, what was the reaction then?
I'm trying to remember where I was when Japan surrendered.
Well, you were probably still in Guam, since it was right after
I'm
the
sure I
bombs.
was. Yeah.
But was there a lot of celebration, I assume?
Well, Bill McConnell and I, he was talking about it. He said, he came out and talked to him one day and he said, so-and-so down at the Navy said he'd have passage, he'd have ship for us if we get orders cut for us to go to the States. I said, well, let's go get orders. And I don't remember now why those orders were cut. But somehow they cut orders for us. I left a note for Sergeant Smallwood that I was gone, and he and I took out for the Navy base there on Guam. And I think we spent one night there on the Navy base, and they put us on a baby carrier. And we came back to the United States to Honolulu, from San Francisco on that baby carrier.
Now, were you discharged as soon as you got back, or were you in the service for a while after you got back to the States?
I was in service for a while. But when we got back, we landed in San Francisco. Let's see, there was Bill McConnell, me, and two other people. Both of them I knew. I can't think of their names now. We got a room in the St. Francis Hotel. Got us a quart of champagne apiece and made sure I was drinking. I woke up the next morning, I really had to hang up. But what was the question you asked?
Well, I just asked you if you were discharged right away, but you
no.
answered that.
See, I had leave gone. So when I got back to the United States, it must have been sometime in September. At any rate, I had enough leave to where I wasn't discharged until the 2nd of January, 1946, and that was my last day. So,
I have a question about your role as supply officer in all these different places. What was your biggest challenge? What did you not have enough of that the people you were
I
supplying
didn't have
wanted?
enough of parts of an airplane, stuff like that. I just didn't.
Did you handle ordnance for the airplanes as well as the mechanical equipment for airplanes, or?
I don't think we did the ordnance, just the mechanical equipment.
Okay.
When you were in the service, did you realize that you were participating in one of the more significant events in world history?
No, we really didn't know what, hardly ever knew what was going on. Even on this trip to Guam, we didn't know where we were going. The only thing I knew was when we went by Hawaii, what am I trying to say? Where is the
Pearl Harbor?
Honolulu?
Honolulu, yeah.
We went by that. Yeah, I could see Hilton, not Hilton Head. What was that big
Diamond Head? Diamond Head?
Diamond
The
Head?
big step rock, yeah.
We could see Diamond Head as we went by.
Yeah.
But the ship, had I made the ship I was supposed to go on, they stayed at Honolulu 2 or 3 nights. I remember reading a story about it, and they were really unhappy because the only ones that got to go ashore were some of the officers.
Oh.
And they weren't able to.
Ooh, not good.
Yeah.
Well, after you were discharged, you came back to Georgia?
I came back to Georgia, and at that time, this was in 1946. I was discharged 2nd of January 1946. At that time, I thought, well, what I'd like to do would be to have something like a Napa Auto Parts place. I could make some money doing that. I've been in that sort of thing. I found out you got to have money to do it. And I didn't have the money, so I couldn't do it. So I took a job in the parts department of the Plymouth Parts Department, Plymouth Dodge, here in Covington. And I worked in it for several months until the Bank of Covington offered me a job. At that time, I was making a small salary plus a GI Bill. You get $90 a month, I believe it was, GI Bill. And so I worked in the Bank of Covington for several months. And while I was there, they had at that time teaching veterans farm training. This was veterans who could sign up for a class, and they would draw $90 a month and attend classes, 2 2-hour classes a week, and then be visited by the teacher on their farm to help them learn how to farm. So I took that job. The county school superintendent was someone I'd known since I'd been in the 5th grade, and so he hired me to do that. So I took that job, and when I took that job, I married Mary, and we took a place here in town, right on Church Street, where we first lived. And I taught veterans farm training for a little over, I believe, 4.5 years. Almost all of those veterans now dead. One out of Oxford still living, one above Oxford still living, and maybe one other. I had something like 25 men in my class, and I've outlived them. But I did that until it looked like if I was going to use my GI Bill, I better get at it. So I applied for working on a master's degree at the University of Georgia. So in March of 1951, then, I began work on a master's degree at the University of Georgia. and I worked on it for a year. During that year, I took all the courses and did a thesis and graduated with a master's degree. Then I applied for a PhD degree, work on PhD degree at the University of Illinois. And with my record, because I had all A's, I don't think I had a single B. They accepted me at the University of Illinois for a PhD degree. So I was there from March of 1952 until December of 1954, when I finished work on PhD and obtained a job back at the University of Georgia as assistant professor, starting in December of 1952. So then I was on the faculty there for half-time teaching and half-time research until I retired in 1981.
And tell them the department.
It wasn't-
The department you were a doctor in. What department you were a professor in.
Well, when I first went there, it was called animal husbandry. Shortly after I got there, it was called animal science. And then while I was there, it was combined with the dairy science department. It was called animal and dairy science department. And this is what it was when I retired.
And the typical courses that you taught were what?
Almost all the courses I taught were in nutrition, animal nutrition. I taught an introductory course in animal nutrition. I taught what was called an advanced course in animal nutrition. I developed a course and taught really to PhD candidates in vitamins. Taught it for a couple of years. I taught a course for a couple of years in the College of Veterinary Medicine called Nutrition and Deficiency Diseases. And then I taught a course called, did I say experimental methods? A course in experimental methods. And my memory kind of fades me after that.
But it was
Well,
all
I
related.
taught-
It was all related back to primarily the beef industry, cows, or all kind of animals.
Any cows. See, I did work with beef cattle, dairy cattle, sheep, swine, horses, rats, mice. I didn't do any work with chickens.
Okay.
Well, you've had a fascinating life.
Yes.
You-
I want to just get a picture of that so we can see him in his youth.
Yeah, here's a picture, looks like 1944 in your Jeep. Why don't you tell us about that?
This was when I was in Jamaica.
Oh, okay.
The fellow that I knew at the University of Georgia was the ordnance officer there at Vernon Field, and I was the supply officer. So we were good friends. Tricky, he was known as Tricky. His name was Harold Say, and he was supposed to be going to India. In fact, he was on a ship headed for India when it was torpedoed. And he spent a week on a lifeboat in the ocean until he finally was picked up and brought to Puerto Rico. And that's where he and I got together again.
Wow.
So then he went from Puerto Rico to Jamaica as the ordnance officer. And then when I was made supply officer in Jamaica, I was up there and we were working together again.
Wow. One thing I don't think we got on the record at the beginning, what is your date of birth, your month, day, and year of birth?
I was born May 28, 1920.
Okay.
So I'll be 90 years old on May 28.
Boy, you look wonderful.
I wish I could agree.
And I am very impressed with everything you remember. I mean, is there anything else you would like to talk about or anything like, we've got a few more minutes on the tape. Is there anything else you would like to say?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I think one of the best things I ever did was marry my wife.
I'm sure that's true.
You didn't tell us how you and Mary met.
Well, after I started teaching the veterans, I called Mary one night and asked for a date. I had seen her coming to the bank while I was working in the bank, and I thought, oh, she's cute. But I asked for a date, and she and Velma, my sister, were both working at White's at the time. And they were having lunch together, and Mary said she had a date with Bill. And Velma said, Bill who? She said, your brother, Bill? I think Bill just about fell out of her seat. But at any rate, we had a date, and we just had one date after the other. After that, I guess we dated from in March until October. But I think it was in July that I decided I'd like to marry her if she'd have me. And I proposed to her and she accepted.
And what was your date of marriage?
We married October the 5th, 1947. So in October the 5th, it'll be 63 years.
Well, congratulations. That's wonderful.
And you have 2 children to tell us about. They came along when?
Well, Linda was born while we were living in Oxford. We first lived in Covington on Church Street, and then at that time, what was the man's name who built houses?
Buddy Reberg.
Buddy Reberg. Buddy Reberg built a house next door to Mary's parents. So when they finished that house, we rented that house, and we lived in it for a while. And then after, I don't know, one morning we woke up and we had a glass of water sitting on the table in the front room, and it was frozen. So we decided it wasn't very well
Constructed.
So you had one child, Linda, and your second child was Jimmy.
Well, see, Linda was born, Linda was born before we moved back to Oxford. We were living on Church Street, and she conceived, and we had Dr. Palmer as the doctor. He did all his work with her before birth, and then he also delivered her and charged us $50 for the whole thing. But one thing we remember, we were living on Church Street. She began having pains, and they started going more often, you know. So we'd already heard so far, when you get so far apart, by then you need to be sure you get it going. Well, I took it too long. We finally headed for Porterville. There was no hospital in Newton County then, just the hospital at Porterville. And when we got to the hospital at Porterville, our water broke. They called Dr. Palmer in Covington and told him that our water broke. He drove down there. I don't know how long it took him. He was still buttoning his pants when he walked in, but he delivered the baby, and that was in 1949.
What year was Jimmy born?
Linda was born October the 9th, 1949. Jimmy was born in Illinois while I was working on a PhD degree.
Now, just give me, we just got a little bit more time on the tape. What year was Jimmy born? And then tell us just a bit of information about Jimmy's military career.
Okay. Jimmy was born July the 12th, 1953. So after he married Joy, his wife, they were wondering what to do. He was going to school at Abraham Baldwin at that time. Her husband, daddy, was working for Abraham Baldwin at that time as he did all the engineering work or something. He was a full-time Marine career. He was a major in the Marines. And so they married in 1976. And they wondered what to do. In fact, he asked me about going into the Air Force. I said, I think it's the thing to do. You don't know what. Jimmy had gone to Abraham Baldwin, he'd gone to Valdosta State, he'd gone to this technical school out here. He didn't know what he wanted to do. And so I told him, I think military would be good for you. So he joined the Air Force and went to Fort Hood, Texas, first stop. And he went from that to this place up in, I can't think of the name of it. It's the top part of Texas.
But his military specialty in all the places he traveled to was what?
But he became, what he did, he went to a school to learn how to work with, you find in my memory how it works. Where you do surgery,
Operating room.
operating room. He went to this school to be an operating room assistant. And he went through that school, and after he did, then he was transferred to Sacramento, California. And he served there at Mather Air Force Base for a while. And then while he was at Mather Air Force, I think he was there for 2 years, his first child was born. And
But we don't need his full military history, but I just wanted you to have it on record that you passed the Air Force military gene down to your son, Jimmy.
well, he passed it down to his 2 sons too, because both of his sons now are in the Air Force. And one of them is in Germany. The other one is at, what's this air base up here that the president flies out of?
In Washington?
Dover?
Huh?
Dover?
In Washington?
Andrews.
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 Andrews Air Force Base.
Sorry.
He's stationed up there.
Congratulations.
Well, we appreciate your service and your son's service and your
Well, thank
grandson's service. That's, you ought to be really real proud of that.
That was a lot of rambling.
No, it wasn't. That was wonderful, and I can't tell you how much we all appreciate you doing this, because you've got a
I really
wonderful,
appreciate you doing it.
well, you got a wonderful story, and it means a lot to us to have a chance to sit down here with you and hear about what you did. You've had a great life, and
I sure appreciate it.
you're still having a great life, and I'm proud to have been able to spend this time with you.
Yeah, he sent me a book recently. I think it had something to do with take care of yourself or something. And he wrote in there, he said, well, if you keep it up, maybe you make 100.
I think you're well on your way. Does anybody have any more questions?
No.
Thanks a lot,
Good
Uncle Bill.
Thank you again. That was
Thank
great.
you, yeah.